Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined as always by Denny Carter. A lot going on. It is August 21st. We are nearing the heart of draft season. We just had another preseason weekend in the books. A lot of notable performances. We're going to talk about several of them today. We're going to talk about Skyy Moore. We're going to talk about Javonte Williams returning. I'm talking about Devan Achane getting injured. Notable performances from Jaylen Warren, from Dameon Pierce. Some guys we might not have time to get to. Like, we're probably not going to have time to get to Cedric Tillman. He had a notable performance. Blurbs on everyone up on the site. Check that out. Denny has an article that's that dovetails a lot of stuff we're talking about today, but late round running back targets if you're a zero RB sicko drafter, which Denny is, and which he claims that people still harass him about daily. Denny, what's going on? Are you getting yelled at on the street, at the bus stop, so on?
Yes. People are lined up at my door. And what I'm doing is I'm opening the door. They're slapping me in the face. And then I go ice it up a little bit. And then the next person slaps me. And this is after I posted my Apex League, Writers League, one of my favorite leagues every year. You're in it, along with other notable folks.
And the draft is half over.
we started on Memorial Day. And we're almost there.
We're getting closer.
Anyway. So I posted my roster, and honestly, I mean, really, I was not trying to be provocative. I really thought that it looked good. It looked good to me, So I have, guys you may have heard of. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Trash.
Devonte.
I wanted to say trash to like 5 straight.
Devonte Smith as my
trash,
wide
obviously.
DJ Moore as my wide receiver.
You want to talk about trash? Never even had 1,200 yards. Trash.
I got Aaron Jones at 5'11". Okay?
You drafted 3 straight receivers who've never reached 1,200 yards. I do hope you realize that. Maybe your team actually is trash, Denny. No, it's not. It sounds pretty good.
Could be. Look, it's full PPR. You can start up to 4 receivers. And I'm going to use a term, and I'm sorry if there are kids listening, but the term for a draft where everybody's taking wide receivers, it's a draft full of piss boys. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
And that's what it is. I mean, you have to go hard at receiver, or you end up with, I don't know, like Rashad Bateman as your wide receiver 1. Like that's just the way these kind of drafts go. Like this is a sick draft. Okay. These people are not well, including myself. And so, people, well, you're missing your running back. I've been posting these drafts for years and years and years, Pat, and still it's the same thing every time. Where's your first round pick? This is always the question that comes up because you don't have Derrick Henry, you don't have CMC, you don't have Eckler. Where was your first round pick? I can't identify it because there are no good running backs on the roster.
The only exception they ever make is for Travis Kelce. If you have Travis Kelce, then you have a first round pick, according to them. But none of your receivers. This league is truly sick. I'm in it. The first 47 picks. So I had my 4th pick was number 47 overall. It was my 3rd receiver. I was already reduced to taking Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
You want to know where this is at? Calvin Ridley is my wide receiver 2. I had the number 2 overall pick. Went chalk with Jamar Chase. And by the time it got back to me, quite literally the best receiver remaining was Calvin Ridley.
Yes.
And the 25th overall pick. It's absolutely insane.
And therefore running back ADP is completely wiped off the face of the earth, right? So you can get, I don't know, I got James Cook in like the 7th or 8th round or something. Like you can get those kind of so that's why I thought
you finally said a good player, by the way.
I thought I don't have any good play. I never said I had good players. I just said I had players on my team. But I thought that this was the one where people would be like, oh, I get it. Yeah, this is pretty good. But I am getting destroyed on Elon's site right now.
Yeah, with Amon-Ra, Devonte Smith, and Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore, like you got 4. Yeah. You do kind of lack a true alpha, but you have like 4 top 20 receivers.
Amon-Ra is not a true alpha?
No, I've actually been dabbling in saying Amon-Ra is going to be a bust.
Oh, but, wow.
I haven't gotten there. He's not going to be, is why I haven't done it. That's why I haven't gotten around to it. Dumb thoughts.
They have nowhere else to go. This is it. Like that's their whole offense. It's just dumping it off to him. That's it.
The only problem is, hopefully he doesn't get hurt. Hopefully it's not like a Debo situation where he's getting so many touches and like touches close to the line of scrimmage where there's so many defenders stacked up. That is one of the only things I worry about with Amon-Ra. But yeah, the reason I have not dabbled with the take publicly that he's going to be a bust is because he's not. That's why I have not.
And that's a good reason. That's a good reason. I get it. Look, it's ugly. Parts of the roster are ugly. I have Kirk Cousins as my quarterback. Okay. I said just last week on this very podcast, I said, if you want to finish 5th in your fantasy league, you take Kirk Cousins. Okay. So I've locked down 5th place in this league. I have Tyler Higbee as my tight end. So I do understand the issue with the roster, but I feel like the solid parts of the roster are being completely overlooked.
Denny, I actually can't even believe this. I came up on the clock in the Superflex mock draft we were doing for the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. And right before we went live, I told you I was about to take Russell Wilson as my second quarterback.
Yeah.
And there was only like 5 picks between me and my next pick. And he just went to Chris Wilson. Chris, hope you're listening. Hope you like being fired. Hope you like that, Chris.
Oh man. Well, look, this we're in a super flex league right now with some NBC folks, and it is the sickest quarterback early round thing I've ever seen in my life. You guys are out of your minds with quarterback.
I was going to take Russ. I'm not doing it now. I'm going to pick live on air, even though this is not compelling whatsoever.
Oh, it's so people like this. It's fine.
Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, and DJ Moore.
I mean, I'd go Moore, but I know you hate Moore. So.
No. First off, quite literally, I've been accused of like loving Moore way too much year after year after year.
But not this year.
Not this year, no.
You're gonna bail just before he has 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns.
I think you really did just like goad me into going back in. I think I'm doing it. I just did it. Oh, I forgot. You click on sleeper, they just automatically pick. It doesn't say, "Are you sure?" Bad news. You're on the clock.
And
you sniped me.
What do you mean I sniped you?
I was hoping Carr would fall 18 more picks. You just sniped me. That's a snipe. No,
I'm a little hard up on quarterback right now. I have 0 quarterbacks. Everybody else has 6 quarterbacks on the roster. I need to get 1.
You did not. You needed a quarterback. And what you need to do is get our draft guide where you can read about this draft when it is finished. With the NFL season quickly approaching, now is the perfect time to get your Rotoworld Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Get ready for your draft and stay one step ahead of your league during the preseason with updated player rankings, profiles, projections, mock drafts, and more. Go to NBCSports.com/draft guide and use promo code DRAFT2023 to save 20% off at checkout. That is NBCSports.com/draft guide, promo code DRAFT2023 to save 20% off at checkout. That is not a joke. We will have a review of this draft, the Superflex Fantasy Football Happy Hour draft, which they are talking about on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour over on Peacock and YouTube. Please check that out. I hope they are burying Denny, who's QB1 is Derek.
They'll probably bury me. But you know what? I'm right.
I'm really regretting waiting on my second quarterback. And I do have Joe Burrow, who really hope his calf is working.
I do. Yes, I hope that for you too. I do want to emphasize that I started this Superflex draft with Justin Jefferson, Stefan Diggs, and Josh Jacobs. So I got 3 first rounders.
Sucks.
I got 3 first rounders on my team. So I think that's okay.
It's amazing. It's interesting you said Josh Jacobs, where we finally got a report Sunday night from the Las Vegas Review-Journal that he plans to report to the Raiders before week 1. This was the most likely outcome all along, but we had never had anyone reporting anything to that effect. We had still been kind of sitting and guessing with Josh Jacobs. Was he the guy, every 3 or 4 years you get a player like willing to go like the distance to miss some regular season games. It's reportedly not going to be Josh Jacobs. We also know anecdotally, again, keep saying this every show. I know there's empirical data on like holdouts. You could probably find something in RotoViz or something, maybe an old Rotoworld article on it, to be honest. Anecdotally, a lot of times the holdouts come and, their touches are limited to start the year. They're not out of shape these days. They're always in amazing shape, but like they're out of game shape, which is like a very real thing. It seems like you got to like take those hits and padded practices and maybe a few in the preseason. So there are little reasons to be wary, but Josh Jacobs' ADP just like stayed reasonable all summer, like right on that RB1-2 borderline. Are you comfortable with Josh Jacobs, last year's yards from scrimmage leader, as an RB1, provided this report is true and he does report before week 1?
Yeah, I mean, if everything works out the way that this report says, then yeah, I think I am. I think you once said that Josh McDaniel's only good idea was force feeding Josh.
And
Josh
two, it
Jacobs.
was after several other bad ideas. Because remember last offseason, all summer, I was like, Zamir White is it's a committee now.
Yeah.
It's a committee. Just face it, it's a committee.
And then they had Josh Jacobs playing the entire Hall of Fame game. Right?
They did. He did. I believe he actually did play in the Hall of Fame game.
So yeah, and so we're like, okay, so it's like Josh Jacobs not going to make the roster basically, and he ends up being maybe the most valuable pound for pound pick in all of fantasy last year. So yeah, I mean, I don't see a way around the Raiders not just force feeding him again this year. And yeah, I mean, maybe he'll have a little rust in the early season, but the volume wise, I just don't think that you can fall on your face too badly here. He's going at RB9. I'm very comfortable there.
He just does all the things RB1s do, where he has goal line touches, he catches passes,
Right.
He has just raw carry volume. Really not any indication. The Raiders tried to put on a brave face and talk up Zamir White a little before training camp. That is not maintained through the summer. I've heard almost nothing about Zamir White or Amir Abdullah. I think is still on the Raiders 53-man roster. They have been waiting very patiently for Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs is weird. He didn't last year. He started out with 11 touches and then 20 in week 2, then only 18 in week 3. But from then on, it was over 20 almost every week. And I just, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo, who is somehow a downgrade from Derek Carr, I don't see any way the touches decrease for Josh Jacobs. Now, the key for Josh Jacobs last year was the first year where quite literally first year where he appeared in every game. And also the first year where he just wasn't playing hurt for a while. Josh Jacobs doesn't usually miss many games, but he plays hurt a lot. And he's usually been ineffective playing hurt. That does raise the possibility last year was a major outlier for Josh Jacobs. 340 carries. My God.
It is a lot.
But I don't see any way, knock on wood, famous last words, that if he appears in 15, 16 games, that he is not in the top 12 at running back.
Yeah, they just don't. I mean, outside of Davante Adams, they just don't really have many options. Even if they want to punish Josh Jacobs, and be like, we don't need you. They need him desperately. So I would take him over Derrick Henry. I definitely over Najee Harris. Definitely over Etienne. I'm just listing guys around him. I don't think I'm taking him over Jonathan Taylor, assuming Taylor comes back.
I'm not either. Would you take him over Tony Pollard?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm definitely on an island with my Pollard skepticism, and I'm probably overthinking it. But yes, I would take him over Pollard.
It is an interesting debate. I would take Pollard, who is on the cover of our magazine.
I know. You put me in a very difficult position.
Pretty interesting, huh? Pretty interesting, folks. But Pollard, I see the bear case on Pollard, but I do believe more in the bull case. I think Jacobs Taylor is maybe the most fascinating debate of the summer.
Yeah,
and I mean, at this point, I almost air Jacobs. Taylor's ADP has remained higher than Jacobs, but he's back with the team, still not practicing, still on the PUP list, still getting very paternalistic lectures from Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay tried a new paternalistic lecture to make the first one seem less bad, and I felt like it was just as bad.
Yeah, he should just stop with the lectures.
He should just stop.
So someone needs to just put him on his bus,
his own bus.
Yeah, and give him a non-working phone and a non-working, microphone, and be like
the Jerry Jones plan. That's what they do with Jerry every summer.
That's what they had to do to get Ezekiel Elliott away from.
They always forget though that Jerry has somehow has three landlines on his bus, and he can still call into the radio. I'm like, we're gonna sign Zeke.
He has a rotary phone on which he operates the team.
I have no idea how this landline works on his bus. Zoomers don't remember how landlines work, but they were in the land.
No.
And the bus just goes, and he has a landline, and he calls in to a Dallas Talk radio station and signs Zeke live on air. That's just how it works.
The Cowboys have just traded for Ezekiel Elliott.
They have traded a first-round pick for Ezekiel Elliott. That has not happened. But Josh Jacobs, we hope, is back. When someone else we hope is back for week 1 is Cooper Kupp. He's almost back from his hamstring injury. Sean McVay said Sunday the plan is for Cooper Kupp to resume practicing this week. That would make it a 3-week absence. I guess that's kind of on the short side for a summer hamstring injury because it stands to reason they exercised all the caution imaginable, and he maybe could have returned last week. We're at the regular season. So I'm going to assume he's healthy. Are you going to assume he's healthy? And Cooper Kupp, talk about an arbitrary number, but a guy who has only exceeded 1,200 yards one time ever. It was one of the greatest receiving seasons in NFL history. He has this hamstring injury now on his resume. He has a torn ACL on his resume. What was it? I forget last year. Was it a high ankle sprain? I believe it was a severe ankle injury last year.
Yeah.
Lengthening injury history. He's going to be 30. He has one really monster outlier season. Are you still comfortable with Cooper Kupp as a top 5 overall selection in fantasy drafts, Denny?
I take Tyreek Hill over him. I guess I should say that. No, I'm not comfortable as a top 5. But shortly after that, I'm comfortable. It's just really hard to find a guy. You talked about how Jacobs does everything that a running back one does. Well, Cooper Kupp is the entire LA offense. He is their run game with the short screens. He's their downfield game with the occasional long ball. He's also their only green zone weapon inside the 10. He led the league in targets during his big 2021 season, and he was among the leaders before his ankle injury in 2022. So that's the Rams' only plan is we're going to get it to Cooper Kupp. That's it. And so, say what you will about Sean McVay being an offensive genius and basing his entire thing on a 30-year-old receiver who's injured all the time. But, it's just too valuable of a role to turn down.
The red zone thing is what really sticks out. That's a great point. He does everything a wide receiver one does, where he compiles, he makes explosive plays, he scores touchdowns, and just no competition whatsoever. Tyler Higbee, I looked it up while you were talking. How many career touchdowns do you think Tyler Higbee has? He's been in the NFL for 7 seasons, Denny. He's completed 7 seasons. How many touchdowns do you think Tyler Higbee has?
Well, he had that stretch where he scored 10 in 4 games. So I'm going to say 14.
He has 20 career touchdowns with a career high of 5. Tyler Higbee has never scored more than 5 touchdowns in a season. And then it's it's Van Jefferson. Tutu Atwell is not becoming the red zone threat. Cam Akers is not going to become a red zone receiving threat. The only hole to poke in Cooper Kupp's argument is the injuries. It's a pretty bad injury resume at this point.
It is. It's not very hopeful, I don't think, going forward. But I'm taking him in the first round. I would say you curiously didn't mention Puka Nacua.
I did not. Who has continued to get praise at camp. Yeah, Cooper Kupp, 2 really bad lower. What do you call that?
Lower body injury?
When it's a structural injury?
Oh, yeah.
But 2 bad lower body injuries. Now a soft tissue injury, to welcome in the season. Turning 30 years old that's Cooper Kupp. Excuse me, Tyler Higbee is already 30. Cooper Kupp's already 32. Oh my goodness. We're down bad.
I thought he was a little older. Yeah, 32, because he entered the league at 25.
He was 24 as a rookie, playing on the red field at Eastern Washington ages you 2 years.
And people, the analytics folks hated Cooper Kupp. I just want to be.
They did. So you're hoping that Puka Nacua is Cooper Kupp 2.0?
We can't dream that big, but I think another Kupp injury and Nacua becomes very interesting in a Rams offense that has nobody.
Really, really bad news, Denny. BYU, where Puka Nacua is entering the league out of, field was green. It wasn't blue or red.
Dang.
Not analytics. He's
All
not
right,
an analytic-friendly pick. Speaking of not analytics, no, that was a segue for this.
That's okay. We can.
Javonte Williams was the controversial player all summer. It seemed like he was for sure going to be back after Breece Hall. The other young running back ACL case where some Breece would be back and ready by week 1. All indications were that Javonte Williams would not be ready by week 1 or would be severely limited if he were. But he's not only back, he's playing in preseason games. Breece Hall still isn't practicing in team drills. He had 12 carries, he had only 3 carries, but he caught 4 balls over the weekend against the 49ers. Javonte Williams, is he getting how much more interesting is he getting to you? Would you consider him an RB2 at this point? I mean, Sean Payton, we know, can print money with his pass catching role, but we also know that's probably Samaje Perine. How is Javonte Williams changing the narrative for you, appearing much healthier than we were expecting in August?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's back. Little surprising as someone who faded him all year in best ball, but what can you do?
I forgot to read. Part of my intro I wrote, are Samaje Perine truthers in shambles?
I am. I'm falling apart at the seams at the mere mention of Javonte Williams being apparently perfectly fine, and I am happy for him. Obviously, he's a great talent. So just to review what happened with the Broncos against the Niners this past weekend, Javonte started the game and split time with Perine. Williams played 12 snaps to Perine's 5 on first and second downs with the Broncos starters, while Samaje Perine played 6 of the 7 third down snaps. So it's pretty clear that Perine is going to have that third down role, like pass protection, outlets type stuff for Russell Wilson. Even though Williams was not used on third downs, he caught 4 of 5 targets. Didn't do anything with them, but that doesn't really matter too much in the preseason, especially. So, you're right. I mean, Sean Payton loves the check down. We saw that with Pierre Thomas in New Orleans. The Zoomers won't remember. We saw obviously with Alvin Kamara. Maybe we see it with Javonte. That could kind of boost his overall profile, even if he does split time with Perine.
Everyone remembers the Pierre Thomas. He had some really, really crazy third down, but I was hoping I could remember who it was. And remember when he signed Tim Hightower and he was just like randomly, I don't know. I don't think he ever became like the pass catching back actually.
Well, but he went crazy in the fantasy playoffs.
That's right. I don't remember if that was actually as a pass catcher. So I was about to make a dangerous point there. Then I think I was going to like really misremember some history. But anyways, they print money, especially the pass catchers. But is Javonte going to have like the stuff that prints money? I kind of am doubting that. And I don't know if I still view him as a legitimate top 24 running back.
Oh, really? Top 24?
He is right inside the top 24. He's currently going one spot ahead of DeAndre Swift. How do you feel about that?
I'd rather have Javonte.
I think I'd rather have Javonte. Would you rather have James Conner or Javonte?
Oh, man, that's hard. Connor's not good, but that doesn't matter.
It matters this year. I think that Connor's not good because he's in the worst offense in the league. Like the Connor stuff, he can get away with it when they're in a good offense or like a league average offense. I think the jig is up for James Conner this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I see you talking more and more about Keontae Ingram.
So. I am. We are, folks.
And
drafting him a lot too.
Who, by the way, I meant to include in my Zero RB article and I forgot.
Well, can you say fired?
Yeah, well, fired.
Yeah,
I think I'd go with Javonte over Conner. Yeah.
Cam Akers or Javonte Williams?
Cam Akers.
What do you think of what's going on with Cam Akers, by the way? I feel like they're trying to steam Kyren Williams again. I can't quite tell what's going on in the Rams backfield.
I'm so exhausted by Kyren Williams.
He is one of those players.
We have to just talk constantly. But I feel like I spent the entire months of November and December talking about nothing else last year except for what's his name?
Kyren Williams.
Kyren Williams.
And
we had he ran 13 routes and he was targeted on 3 of them. And he saw some snaps in the fourth quarter and he saw 1 goal line carry. Oh my God, it's tortured. It's so tortured. Just go with Akers.
Seems like it really stuck with you. Wow.
I got frazzled about talking about the Rams backfield last year. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to draft Akers and I want to be done with it. Kyren Williams, maybe he's good, maybe he's not. I say it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And Cam Akers is fully back from his injury from 2.5 years ago.
Javonte, I don't know, Javonte, man. It seems like Samaje Perine is going to be too difficult to dislodge on too many important snaps. For me to feel really enthused about Javonte Williams as my RB2. There will be enough weeks where he's an RB2, though, I think. Maybe. But I'm trying to think a little bigger on my RB2. You could argue he's thinking big at your RB2 spot since there's still unknown upside with Javonte Williams. But yeah, Samaje Perine, he's the guy that Sean Payton went out and got.
Right.
It just seems like he's going to be difficult to dislodge in too many important plays.
So I will say, just real quick, from from a standpoint of not having a ton of great running back options on your roster, when Javonte Williams falls into like the late 5th or early 6th round, which I see happen, I'm really into him there. I think that you're getting a guy who, over the long run, maybe not in week 1 or 2 or 3, but by week 8 or 10 or 12, you could have something like an RB1 on your hands, depending on how P. Ryan functions or injuries or whatever. But I am very into Javonte when he slips a little past his ADP.
You probably are hoping more for October than September with Javonte Williams, which I think can be dangerous in redraft, but you got to make those kind of decisions even in redraft. And it is an interesting point to make with Javonte Williams. Danny, the Chiefs receiver corps, I was in at a family event over the weekend with a lot of Chiefs fans, and they were like asking me like, who is the Chiefs' #1 receiver? And like every person I said, they're like big Chiefs fans. They're poo-pooing. Kadarius Toney doesn't stay healthy. Justin Ross doesn't stay healthy. Skyy Moore is terrible. Rashee Rice, my cousin kind of perked up.
Okay.
Like, he seems all right. And then he went out and caught 8 of 9 targets for 96 yards on Saturday evening against the Arizona Cardinals. But Skyy Moore, as our own Zach Kruger points out, has had really the most solid usage aside from MVS of any Chiefs receiver this summer. He started both games with the first team offense. He's been in the slot on 16 of his 25 snaps. Zach points out Patrick Mahomes peppers the slot with targets. Where are you landing? Are you drafting any Chiefs receivers? And if so, who are you drafting the most often?
I'm not usually in a position to get Chiefs receivers in the part of the draft where they go. If anybody, I am interested in Skyy Moore. I think that there's a lot of reason to think that he's going to get every chance to be like the main slot guy for Mahomes. And he's pretty good. Like, his profile is actually really hopeful in that he can develop in this offense after a very disappointing rookie season. Of course, last year I think I called him a Zoomer psyop, which I don't take back, by the way. Zoomers are operating on us psychologically with Skyy Moore. Rashee Rice this weekend played 8 of 20 snaps with the starters. So just to be clear, the starters for the Chiefs played 20 snaps. Rashee Rice was in on 8 of them. He ran 5 routes and saw 2 targets. That's pretty good.
That actually is pretty good.
I feel like that is kind of inching close to me maybe flipping to becoming a Rashee Rice guy over a Skyy Moore guy. But for now, I'm sticking with Skyy.
I do think people are kind of not in on Rashee Rice just for kind of silly reasons, mostly because, they took a second-round receiver last year, and look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, but they do tend to like slow play it.
They do, and they also have that luxury. They do have that, unless like the guy forces their hand, they have that luxury.
Right? Exactly. They can say, "All right, kid, like you're going to be inactive sometimes. You're going to be returning punts. Like we may get the ball to you on a trick play if you're lucky, but you're not going to be doing this every down snap thing."
Like, there's one thing you need to understand, rookie. Patrick Mahomes can complete 12 passes to Justin Watson, and we're still going to win by 17 points. It doesn't matter.
It actually doesn't. Pat, I was actually thinking of this. I was driving to the beach this past weekend, and for the 5th time this summer, and and I was thinking that for Mahomes, it literally doesn't matter.
It actually doesn't matter.
And because I thought when they lost Tyreek Hill, I guess I think too highly of Tyreek Hill maybe, but I think of Tyreek Hill as like a generational type player. And so losing him, you would think, would be a knock on his quarterback. It was not. And actually, he was better without Tyreek Hill, which is unbelievable. And I know Bengals fans and Bills fans, they get so triggered every time Mahomes comes up. Oh, well, we have a quarterback too. You never talk about our quarterback. Well, they're not close. They're not even in the same class, not even in the same galaxy as Patrick Mahomes.
Last year was scary with Mahomes because the receiver core really was just not good. Yeah. And his ADOT went way down, and just none of it mattered because everything he does so well. Like, he checks down better than you. He throws deep better than you. He throws no-look passes better than you. He scrambles better than you. Even it looks like he's like running in a potato sack and should be extremely easy to like hog tie tackle. You can't do it.
It's so true. Pat, Why does he look like that when he runs?
I don't know, but he looks like that when he runs, and you can't catch him.
No.
Whereas like other quarterbacks like that, like Russell Wilson, like why does Russell Wilson look like he's wearing like lead weights around his ankles and getting tackled very easily by defensive linemen?
Yeah,
Like,
by a 340-pound defensive lineman who easily tracks him down.
Like I didn't really think Patrick Mahomes could outrun 2 cornerbacks.
Yeah,
and he doesn't even look fast, and yet here we are.
Doesn't look fast. Looks like a dad.
He
honestly,
does look like a dad.
Mahomes looks like a dad.
Skyy Moore, by the way, is kind of what Patrick Crane talked about as like a drumbeat player, where he had the big play in the playoffs. They placed faith in him in the biggest game of the year. They immediately, I think, after the Super Bowl, Andy Reid started talking him up for 2023. Like the week after the game, he's like, Skyy Moore deserves a bigger role. I think another coach did. The media did. He looked good in mini camp. He's looked good in training camp. He's getting the usage we like to see in the preseason. So I think there are reasons to be optimistic about Skyy Moore, where it was real like school of hard knocks for him as a rookie coming from a small school, but that he might be ready. I like taking Skyy Moore flyers. I like taking Rashee Rice flyers too, especially because they cost nothing. And the guy with second round draft capital playing with Patrick Mahomes is intriguing.
I think, even if you like do a balanced approach to roster building, you can get Skyy Moore as like your wide receiver 4. I think that's fine. We're
going to hit a few more news items. Then we're going to jump into Denny's article on late round 0 RB targets. But first, a word from our sponsors. Our sponsors, of course, are us. There is no better way to start your day than watching one of the biggest stars in baseball in America's biggest city, Shohei Ohtani, and his Los Angeles Angels teammates take on the New York Mets at Citi Field this Sunday in MLB leadoff. Catch the action live at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, exclusively on Peacock. And don't forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows and Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. Denny, you wouldn't know that the Angels have totally tanked since the trade deadline. They have nothing left to play for except making sure I get the bye in my home league.
Oh, okay.
Shohei Ohtani, batter, as he's known. He's 2 different players on Yahoo. He's been carrying me all summer. And
is he really? Wait, you don't get his pitching stats.
No, you don't get his pitching. He's 2 different players on Yahoo.
That's insane.
It is insane. He's been carrying me all summer, and I will be watching him hit 3 home runs against the New York Mets.
Well, I take some unders on Shohei Ohtani in that game because it's like 3 a.m. for the Angels.
I always take unders on really early day games, and no day games are earlier than our games on Peacock.
That's got to be miserable for West Coast teams having to play Sunday morning on the East Coast. Woof.
It is tough. I'm sure it's tough. Sometimes, 10:30 in the Central Times. I think they wait until 11:30 when we're here in the Central Time Zone. But Shohei Ohtani on Peacock this Sunday. A few more news items here. I wrote Devan Achane shoulder injury. No one's really been talking about him this summer. We talked about him a lot in the spring. Any Dolphins backfield? Did any Dolphins make your 0 RB article?
Now that you mention it, that would have been a good idea. But did not. I wrote up 11 guys. I honestly could have written up like 20 plus.
Yeah.
And by the way, in those 11 entries, I probably mentioned 16 to 18 running backs. So you have your choice. But yeah, Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are probably just going to do the split backfield thing again. I think just take your pick. My choice is Jeff Wilson. My choice is Jeff Wilson just because I think that he'll get most of the short yardage and goal line work. And hey, the Dolphins were not bad at rushing the ball last year. I think
they
Pro
weren't.
Football Focus graded them as like a top 8 run blocking offensive line, and I think they were top 10 in EPA per rush. So if you can get a little value, squeeze a little value out of that Dolphins backfield, you should do it.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson and his projected goal line touches really feel like the only thing I'm comfortable projecting in the Dolphins backfield right now. And Devan Achane, I will say, like the one injury I didn't want to see a small guy suffer in the summer was a shoulder injury.
I know.
And to have the 5'8", like 180-pound guy already get his shoulder banged is not a good sign for his NFL career. And so, yeah, he's a bust. Sure, he's, quote, never played a regular season snap, but he's a bust.
Well, they're already doing that thing where they're like, we're going to get him the ball. We're going to find ways.
I know.
And like you talked about with Elijah,
I'm calling this the Elijah Moore from now on.
Yeah, I mean, this is a red flag. Like, we've been around too long to fall for this stuff. Where a team's like, yeah, definitely. Like, he's fast, and he's fast.
Yeah.
So
if I hear a coach mention a jet sweep with a player, I just like take them off my draft board.
That's no good. When I know you remember this, when the Rams drafted Tavon Austin, the first thing they did, he's a weapon. We're going to get him the ball in his hands. That's a bust 100%. Like, off the bat, that wasn't going to work out.
And then the Cowboys took a second stab at it and created a position that did not exist of web back. Called Tavon. If you're creating new positions, if you're saying weapon, you're saying we got to get him the ball. All I hear is that we can't get him the ball a normal way.
Right.
So
he's bad, but we should try to get the ball in his hands.
We've been working on shovel passes with Devan Achane 45 minutes every practice. Wow, that seems like a lot.
You know who you never hear that about? You never hear that about Davante Adams. No one ever said we're going to find ways to get him the ball. Nobody ever has said that.
You know who's going to find ways to get the ball, Denny, is Ezekiel Elliott. It's just what he does. He's on the New England Patriots. He is the new 1B back to Ramondre Stevenson. We were talking about on the show last week, but I couldn't help but notice a quote over the weekend from Bill O'Brien, who said he believed Ezekiel Elliott remained capable of contributing on all 3 downs.
I don't want to.
I don't think we're not actually worried about that, are we? What is like a worst case scenario for Zeke's usage? It's probably just like we're like being scared of our own shadow, right? If we're worried about Zeke taking receptions away from Ramondre Stevenson, please tell me this is the case.
Come on, guys, get a hold of yourselves. Honestly, it's wild to hear this, and I see it. I see the panic on Twitter. Oh, I can't draft Ramondre Stevenson anywhere close. I'm fine with Stevenson's ADP. I think it's fine. Last year, let's see, Zeke had 17 catches on 23 targets in 15 games, guys. It was like bad. So he's not going to be used in that capacity. We know that. I'm not, I'm a body positive guy. I want to say that. I also want to say that I saw Ezekiel Elliott coming out of Patriots training camp, and I don't know if he's up for a 3-down role.
Really? So you're saying he went to Cabo and didn't work out this time?
I'm saying that he's gonna have to do an Uncle Lenny and cut some weight late in August to get back to game shape. But I'm not scared. I'm fine with Stevenson where he's going.
All right, yeah, I am too. I'm gonna just repeat the line I had with Ramondre last. I think the only thing that really changed with Ramondre is that like that second gear isn't coming this year, but that what we got last year we can get again. Basically, like people were hoping there was something even more to the insane numbers he posted last year. I think now like the best case scenario is just repeating last year, but that's totally fine because we would want him to repeat last year.
Well, also because he's
passes.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but yeah. He's fallen out. He's RB12, right around ETN, right around Breece Hall. I mean, and that's a hard call. But I have to emphasize, Bill O'Brien loves the screen pass, and Ramondre Stevenson is a really good pass catching back.
I will say when I was on the clock in this fantasy football happy hour mock, I saw Ramondre was falling, and I was way too scared to do it. Way too scared to do it.
Don't draft scared, man. Come on.
I didn't. I took DJ Moore.
No, that's scared.
No, it's not scared. What?
You're afraid of your own shadow.
You're acting like it was an amazing pick like 5 minutes ago.
I'm the one who convinced you on Moore.
You did. Speaking of being scared of our own shadows, we're afraid to run it back with George Pickens because all he did as a rookie was run go routes and asked to win contested balls. And the hype out of Steelers camp is that they're passing more and that George Pickens has, quote, transformed into a more polished receiver with an expanded route tree. That was the Athletics' Mark Kaboli, who, to be fair, is always very bullish on the Steelers. Like when he dishes out touches, it's always like 800 total touches. And our own John Daigle, or not our own, our former coworker John Daigle, tweeted that although that had been the hype that his route tree was changing, that he was apparently running more go routes than ever over the weekend. Wow. Just where are we at, if anywhere, on George Pickens, a guy we talked about probably every show last summer and now barely comes up this year?
Yeah, maybe it's a thing where he needed another year to get over his ACL injury from college. Like we've talked about, sometimes it takes 2.5, sometimes 3 years to get over catastrophic injuries. And he certainly had one in college. And maybe he just wasn't ready last year. I guess he's fine as kind of a frustrating boom bust type guy. He's going to make cool catches. That's the thing about George Pickens. You can take that to the bank. Okay. The kids are saying that, I think. You could take it to the bank. George Pickens is going to make a cornerback look silly on the sideline, and he has that dog, and that's cool. But it's the Deontay Johnson show in Pittsburgh. I don't really have any doubt about that.
People with Pickens now, fantasy has just changed so much where all we think about is PPR and like stockpiling receptions, that it dings players like George Pickens, who will be there kind of probably in the points chase in the end, but it's like much less predictable. And I just think he's settling into the archetype of the player, like where some weeks he could flip your matchup on like 3 or 4 catches. Other weeks you're like, why do I keep taking zeros from George Pickens? And that he's kind of like a PPR casualty, where we would be thinking about him differently if it were 10 years ago. We might still be excited about his role, even if it was just like this outside win tough catches role. That since we've been PPR enlightened, we just don't think about players like George Pickens as much anymore.
You say enlightened, I say radicalized. It's really the same deal. But that's a great point. I a decade ago, maybe more, we would have said, got to have Pickens as my wide receiver 2, 3.
Still got to have Pickens. Everyone knows you got to have Pickens, dog levels. By the way, you've been dabbling all summer and kind of truthing Kenny Pickett, right? The Kenny Pickett reports remain like really glowing out of Steelers camp. Yeah. What do you make of this?
Yeah, truthing. You're talking about like the positive truthing.
Oh yeah, not negative, very positive. Yeah. Which we all kept laughing at you. Mostly behind your back,
right? While I was crying by myself in my office.
So that's why you kept going to the beach.
I was once again crying and coping on the beach. And
Denny went to the beach to cope for 3 days. I couldn't. I thought you went with your family. No,
no, just by myself, just to cope. It was a coping trip, and look, the Steelers offense was actually, and I hate saying this because the Steelers drive me crazy with the old school smash mouth, got to play like Brad Shaw's under center mentality,
where he leads the league with 9 touchdown passes.
Yeah, like that stuff. Man, I cannot wait. I hope I live long enough, and I might not, because Mike Tomlin will coach this team for another at least 50 to 60 years. I hope I live long enough to see the Steelers try to score points, and maybe that happens this year. I don't think Pickett's actually a good quarterback prospect, but I think the system and the talent around him, including, by the way, Jaylen Warren, I think that he can come back from a miserable rookie season, and he truly was terrible last year.
Kenny Pickett's ceiling, he can maybe get into the Kirk Cousins zone, which I'm not really trying to damn with faint praise. I don't know if he could ever be quite the compiler Kirk Cousins is, but I feel like a similar overall skill set, maybe a little more athletic than Kirk Cousins, but they're talking about him like he's taking a Cousins type step this summer, where I think he's playing faster, he's distributing the ball better. No one's acting like he has a huge arm still, but he doesn't have it's not like he has a bad arm though.
Yeah, I know, regular listeners of this show have heard me say this at least 15 times, but if you're tuning in because your draft is coming up or whatever, just know and remember that the Steelers are due for some massive, like, earth-shattering touchdown regression, okay? They were so unlucky. And I know that might be dismissed as, oh, well, they just don't score touchdowns. But touchdowns are volatile, okay? Like, that's just the way touchdowns are, very unpredictable. And they didn't score them, okay? Their yards to touchdown ratio was crazy bad. It's going to happen this year. So just keep that in mind if you're super flex-wise, getting Pickett, prioritizing Deontay Johnson, even I was going to say Heath Miller, not Heath Miller, Pat Fryermuth.
Oh, come on, man.
Come on. It's the Steelers have pretty much the same guys over and over and over.
They do. But so the whole team is overdue for positive touchdown regression. And as you alluded to, especially Deontay Johnson. Yeah. It's going to happen. That is enough on the news items. I was going to talk about Jalen Hyatt, but we've already talked about him a bunch. Then you just tell people a little bit about your newest Zero RB article. And then I will guide us through some of the players I want to talk about because I want to connect it to some of the things that happened in the preseason over the weekend.
Yeah. So look, I know, Bijan Robinson had a nice little run against the Bengals. He avoided a tackler, and that, he's going to be good. I'm no one's saying otherwise. Okay.
Sounds like you're about to say otherwise.
No. He made a great one-handed catch. Okay. He's the first running back to do that. It's great. I'm sorry. I'm being a jerk. All right. So look, Tyler Algier is going to be a thing. Okay. Like I know no one wants to hear it.
No.
No one wants to hear it. I know.
I don't. I quite literally don't want to hear it.
I get it. No one, you just want to hear it's going to be Bijan, 90% snap rate, 35 touches a game. None of that's not going to happen. Okay. Arthur Smith, I think, is going to surprise us in a not so great way with the way he uses Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Algier was good last year. Not that it matters. And
doesn't matter. Yeah, you don't need to be good. Everyone knows that.
But he is the clear RB2. So his contingency value in that stubbornly run-heavy Atlanta offense is just too much. It's too much for me. I cannot leave a draft. If I leave a draft without Algier, I feel like I've failed. So Algier is the cover guy for this piece for that reason.
It went into coughing convulsions when you started talking about Tyler Algier and was muted most of that talk because I was so outraged. But the contingency value is super high with Tyler Algier. I will say my zero RB or like insurance back approach is usually I want some people that have like a plausible path to standalone value. I want people that have like some standalone value, even if it's like an RB4 or 5, who then become like an RB2 or maybe RB1 if someone gets injured. I don't really see standalone value for Tyler. Really? You're not really arguing he has standalone value, but I think the best zero RB targets have some standalone value. I'm not saying they by the definition they can't all have some standalone value, but I don't think. Do you think Tyler Algier has any standalone value?
I've seen that argument actually. Our former colleague John Daigle, who we're going to cite at least 6 times on this podcast. He's tweeted, X'd, whatever we're saying, a lot about Algier having standalone value. Now, I think that you can build a team where you really don't need that, unless it's like super deep and that's a lot of flex spots. But like, when I'm drafting Algier, I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to plug him into the flex and wait till Bijan misses time. I'm not doing that. Okay. But I do think that he's a great late round guy. Should I go on to my next guy?
Well, let me ask you about a next guy because DeAndre Swift, it made waves in the fantasy community. They rested him against the Browns for the Eagles' second preseason game. And now everyone's like, it's DeAndre Swift. Everyone knows this. That's like what was the tenor of the comments on DeAndre Swift over the weekend, where I still feel like we don't really know this. And we're still getting lots of Kenneth Gainwell smoke signals. We're still getting negative Rashad Penny smoke signals. The Athletics' Bo Wolf, who's a fan of the site, really good account on Twitter. Check him out, Bo, WULF. He's still casting his lot with Kenneth Gainwell. He thinks he's going to lead this backfield in touches. You have Kenneth Gainwell as a zero RB target in your article. I mean, the case in some ways is self-evident, but talk us through the zero RB Kenneth Gainwell argument.
Yeah, I mean, Gainwell's going as RB 53 first of all, so it's not like you have to make a hard decision on Gainwell. You just get him like near the end of your draft.
That's a pretty uncomplicated strategy. You can just get the player. I like that strategy.
Yeah, I mean that's actually really cool. I will say really cool thing about when you just go full zero RB is spending your last like 4 or 5 picks on just guys who are there. And like nobody else wants them. Nobody wants Gainwell.
That's what I've been doing with Keontae Ingram. Really hope he's a thing.
Yeah.
Really hope he's a thing.
And so you're just like, okay, like, people are scrambling for wide receivers or whatever. And I'm not saying that I never like build a bad team. I do occasionally. But yeah, Gainwell's just sitting there. I think that the ADPs for the Eagles running backs are all mixed up. I think Penny should not be going nearly as high as he's going. He might not make the team.
I do think Penny might not make the team. There are some troubling signs there. And a guy who said just really catastrophic orthopedic injuries. That's what I was trying to think of earlier.
There you go.
About orthopedic injuries.
Yes.
Sorry.
And I refuse to believe that DeAndre Swift is going to emerge as the guy he was supposed to be in Detroit. I think if a coaching staff gives up that easily on a guy after 2 or 3 years, whatever it was then
3.
yeah, I think we can safely not write him off completely, but write him off as like a fantasy viable 3-down guy. That's just not happening. I do want to say real quick though, Jalen Hurts being in this backfield with these running backs, man, that hurts a lot. Like I didn't mean that as a joke.
It was a good pun there.
But I mean, it does. Like he's an unstoppable force inside the 10-yard line by himself. He's not going to be giving it to running backs in that area, and that dings them a lot.
And DeAndre Swift, I realized while you were talking, he's basically in the Chase Edmonds zone, like a hell of a player between the 20s. Yeah, sure, whatever. Give him 3rd down touches between the 20s, let him catch the ball, never give him any snaps of import in the red zone, of course.
Yeah.
And two, he's between the 20s, but he's not the only guy between the 20s. There's still other guys getting touches between the 20s. It is intriguing that he's in maybe the best overall offense in the NFL, not including Patrick Mahomes, and I guess not including the Bengals either. But maybe the most most intelligently designed.
Yeah.
No pun intended there.
Oh, come on, no politics.
It was sent from God, the Eagles' offense. But he was already in an elite offense last year, and I just feel like he's going to be typecast. Like they know that his absolute ceiling for weekly touches is 12 to 15. He cannot exceed that, or he immediately gets injured. And this is like a Chase Edmonds special waiting to happen.
I think 12 to 15 is generous, honestly.
It probably is.
I would put more 8 to 10 touch range.
So then, what's the pro case for Gainwell, by the way? Well, just that he's there and free.
Well, yeah, and also he has a year of experience in the offense. The coaches talk him up all the time.
They could not. Sorry, I'm going to repeat something I said. Sorry to interrupt, but they couldn't not restrain themselves from giving him important snaps last year. Like anytime there's an important situation, get on the field.
Yeah. And so I think the Gainwell is going to see an ADP jump once Penny is released or cut or whatever.
Man, I don't know if he'll get cut, but
and so I think that's you have to get if you're drafting this weekend, get Gainwell. You just drop him. If he proves to not be a thing. It's okay.
I'm taking notes. You can drop players.
You can simply drop a player.
I'm calling my wife. Did you hear about this? What Denny just said on the podcast? This phone is not on, and you've never once listened to one of my podcasts. How about some support?
At least we're not live.
My wife will quote never listen to a fantasy football podcast. Kenny Gainwell gotten him in a lot of teams, and then if he doesn't touch the ball in the first 2 weeks, I'm just going to cut him.
Yeah,
you have a lot of players you want to talk about. But I want to talk about the Houston Texans, or Dameon Pierce was a guy who was really hyped last year, mostly lived up to the hype. Played every snap with the Texans' first team offense over the weekend. The fantasy heads have really been talking about this, maybe being like a 75% snap player, getting more 3rd down snaps than he got last year. But curiously, you talk about Devin Singletary in this article. Why is that, Denny?
It's true. Well, Singletary is going about 42 rounds after Dameon Pierce. So that's why I'm talking about Singletary. I again, like with Algier, I am certainly not drafting Singletary and being like, I can squeeze some flex value out of him. If I have to play him in the flex, I'm done anyway.
You are cooked.
Okay.
Even in a 14-teamer, you are cooked.
That's not happening. I do want to emphasize something that I mentioned on this podcast 3 to 10 weeks ago, which is that no one was a worse graded pass blocking running back than Dameon Pierce per PFF last year, and no one was better than Singletary. I know you hate to hear this, okay? But I'm pretty sure the Texans said, "Holy cow, we need a running back who can block," and they got Singletary. So contingency value, I like it a lot with Singletary because I think he would be the locked-in 3-down back for a Houston offense, by the way, who I kind of don't hate.
I know. It is easy to be a little excited about them just because the scenery has changed.
It does.
They brought in a Shanny system. They've added intriguing pieces all over, but probably going to take a year to come together. It's not the worst offense in the league. I'll say that. I think the Panthers setup is worse this year than
Panthers would probably be really bad. Yeah,
the Panthers have the worst overall setup. The Panthers' entire plan is basically like, well, really hope Bryce Young's a superstar, which he might be.
Probably too small.
Yeah, probably too small. What a surprise! By the way, Dameon Pierce about the RB18, either an underdog or the more normal services like Yahoo, ESPN, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Dameon Pierce or Miles Sanders, Denny Carter.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Pierce all day. Yeah,
thank God. Dameon Pierce or J.K. Dobbins.
Pierce.
I think I will. I don't really understand Dobbins' ADP. Like people are like really overreacting to like a fairly standard holdout. Like he's not hurt. The whole offensive environment should be so much better for the Ravens. I'm for better or worse, I am taking J.K. Dobbins in almost every managed league I'm in.
It's hard to get a read on the Dobbins situation.
It is.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if he's a healthy scratch.
No, get out of here. No, don't put that out there.
No?
No. Like truly no. Like that is actually not in the range of outcomes.
No, all right.
No, it's not. But
I mean, they don't need him.
Don't scare. Yeah, they do. They really need him. Did you see what happened last year?
They don't.
They actually really need him.
They have Gus Edwards. He's better than Dobbins.
Gus Edwards can't move side to side, and they don't have a third down back. They actually badly need J.K. Dobbins.
Well,
badly.
I mean, he was good. He was really. I think I wrote earlier this offseason
what happened?
how good
I
he
thought
was.
you loved him.
I did. I've cooled. I've cooled on him.
I'm viewing J.K. Dobbins as an opportunity because his ADP has been crashing across the board, and I'm scooping him up just about everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have Dobbins than Madison, who's going right after him.
I know you've got so many guys you want to talk about this article, but I had to ask about Jaylen Warren, who had like probably the biggest splash play of the weekend. I think it was a 62-yard touchdown.
It was a long one, yeah.
Can't remember, was it a pass or a run?
It was a pass. It was a reception.
I thought it was a dump off of some sort. Najee Harris, I feel like for like the 9th straight year, we're all like everyone's saying he's going to be a bust, and for the 9th straight year, we will be correct that he's going to be a bust. But do you think so? Jaylen Warren, kind of an open and shut 0 RB case, but make the case, and also a 0 RB target who I think unquestionably has standalone value.
Yes, I knew he's the one. Like Warren is the one who, if you need standalone value, you go ahead and you take him, and you hope that Warren just dominates the pass catching role, and that Harris is used as sort of a like a Jerome Bettis type specialty back, right? So Najee Harris is going to score all the touchdowns, whatever. Just accept that. Najee Harris also doesn't miss time. Like he plays through injuries. He's a very tough guy. So I don't think that you can bank on Warren just becoming this like 20 touch per week guy. But he's efficient. He's good. The PPR value is there. So if you are committed to 0 RB, like really, if you go in on it, I think that Warren and Algier strike me as must gets in that situation.
I'll let you talk about one more player from your article. Who do you want to talk about?
Well, let's see. I have 11, so really it's endless.
I kind of wanted you to talk about Roschon Johnson because he had a play over the weekend too. That were.
It's just like I wrote up Roschon and I mentioned Deontay Foreman as a guy. He's also a guy, okay, and he's playing in the Bears backfield. Roschon's still 3rd on the depth chart. Okay. And he started 4th. Like they're putting him through like the rookie thing, like the ringer. Like, okay, you gotta work your way up, Rook. But I think he will, because I know I said this doesn't matter, but he's really good. Like he was really amazingly good as a pass catcher and a rusher in college.
Does not matter.
I know. God, it doesn't. Why can't I just stick to that? And Khalil Herbert, like I mentioned, like never been a workhorse. I think that this Bears backfield will be very frustrating. And like with Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields just torpedoes their upside. Okay, all of these guys, like they're not going to score any short touchdowns. That's all Fields, whether he's throwing it or whether he's running it in. So that does hurt. And you're going to have to be patient with Roschon Johnson. But I think that he's well worth just putting at the bottom of your roster and waiting it out, waiting to see how it unfolds. Maybe Herbert misses time. Maybe both Foreman and Herbert miss time. And Roschon can. I think he's the kind of guy who can get it done on like 12 touches.
Yeah, he's a talented enough player in an uncertain enough backfield where I like this making a bet on talent and a bet on like the touches vacuum in their backfield that like by October 1st, he could already be like the guy getting the most work. I mean, Khalil Herbert he's like, I feel like one of the biggest wild cards in fantasy this year. He has a really wide range of outcomes.
He does. He can make me look really foolish. I will
say it's a vacuum in that Bears backfield, and we need more information. We're not going to get it on the show because we're done for the day.
We should just wait. We should just keep recording until we get more information.
Yeah, we should. Well, yeah, we're going to stay here for the next 72 hours. Danny, I hope you don't have to go to the bathroom ever.
I just went.
Don't turn it. Oh no, that was way too good of an ad lib. Yeah, so check out Denny's Zero RB article. Check out your earlier Zero RB article, kind of re-explaining the principles of Zero RB to people who may have not been familiar. Keep it locked to the site all week. It's a big week, the final week before cut downs. We're heading into the final preseason week. Going to be a lot of good personnel and roster type nuggets on rotoworld.com. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We will be back